What's going on, guys? Don't adjust your screen. I got Mikey V here down at the Cave in Foxborough. We're going to be talking some of the hottest and coldest hitters from the past 7 games. And, of course, some really good sell high, buy low. Don't go anywhere. All right, guys, like I said, there is no need to adjust your screens, adjust your cameras. I have Mikey V here. This is Bourbon N Ball. We're going to get down to the nitty gritty. We're going to be talking some of the hottest hitters. And, of course, like anything, we're going to start out with the hottest players. Okay, so let me share my picture. Mike, again, let me break down the hottest hitters. And then if you want to dissect and maybe give a little more information on those. But here they are. Look at that, a murderous row of hot hitters for fantasy baseball in a standard points league. First and foremost, Mets shortstop, third baseman Bo Bichette has looked like he's turned a corner. 82% owned. Last 7 games, 452. 2 homers, a grand slam, 8 ribbies, 8 runs, 4 strikeouts, 41 points, 5.9 a start. Every day he started, he gave you almost 6 points a start. That's crazy. It was 1 game at home versus the Cards, 3 games at home versus the Braves, and then 3 games he was in Cincinnati versus the Reds. I guess my question is going to be, once we're done reading this list, Mikey, is this guy becoming rosterable again? Listen, still 2.2 a start for the season, but the Mets seem to be getting hot. Juan Soto seems to be getting hot. I do have an honorable mention for that man. Something to talk about. We're going to discuss, right? And then, of course, Royals shortstop Bobby Witt Jr., 99.8% owned. 462, a homer, 5 ribbies, 7 runs, 1 strikeout, 4 stolen bases, 40 points, 5.7 to start. 1 game at home versus the Rangers, 3 games at home versus the Astros, 3 games away in Washington versus the Nationals. Really, the only offensive weapon they have in Kansas City. Unfortunately, he's probably going to go on the IL. That was earlier today. It was announced that he has an MCL strain. That's about a 2 to 3 week injury. So that's a tough break for him, especially now that he's producing, right? And then we got some honorable mentions here. Outfielder for the Mets. Like I said, the Mets offense looks like they've turned that corner. Juan Soto, 38 points. A's second baseman, third baseman, outfielder. Zach Geloff gave you 36. Cubs outfielder, PCA, and Rockies super utility, Willie Castro, gave you 35. And then I have to end this with Pirates outfielder, my boy, Brian Reynolds. Mikey V, that's the list. Break it down for me, my man.
Oof, man, let's start from the top, right? We talked about Bo Bichette before. We know how he kind of rolls, right? But the best thing about Bo Bichette is that he doesn't strike out often. So he never actually buries you when you week to week when you do start him. Now, in saying that, it looks like you said he did turn a corner now. So now he's going to be, I think, a must start, in my opinion, because if that Mets lineup really did turning around, he's going to be a big part of that. Him, Marcus Simeon's been having some more power in that lineup lately. Ben just starting to hit the ball now. And like you said, Soto, 39 points last week. Soto's being back to Soto. So I love Bo Bichette. I think this is a guy that people targeted, thought he was going to be a good addition, playing third base, shortstop eligibility. I think that's a good, well-rounded guy. He at least should be rostered in a lot of leagues, but I do think you should be comfortable enough to put him into leagues now. Obviously, Bobby Witt playing like a first-round pick like he should. Unfortunately, with the injury coming up, now we're going to have to, reevaluate him a little bit. Only a couple weeks, so we'll keep an eye on that as well. But I think the big outlining names on this list is Zach Geloff and Willie Castro. This is 2 guys that actually played against each other last week, right, Doug? It was Colorado versus the A's, and Willie Castro, I know there was 1 game, he just went absolutely off. He looked great at the plate. It's not a consistent thing that he usually does, but I think moving forward, you got to ride the streak sometimes. We always talk about that. Super utility guy, you can place anywhere you want. So if you have injuries, this is maybe someone that you want to reach out for. Same thing with Zach Geloff, too. Plays for a really good lineup with the A's. So this is a guy that, again, if you have injuries that happen, we're going to talk about Mike Trout on Monday morning about that injury. maybe this is a guy that you go out, you look at. This is a guy that can be an easily replacement for him. 36 points is nothing to sniff at. PCA, we know about the story about PCA, hot and cold. I think a lot of you guys already know how I feel about PCA. I'm just not buying into it right away. We saw that second half last year. It's great to see him playing really good baseball today, including today's game against Toronto. And, you got to ride the hot streak. And, PCA, when he's hot, he is like the best hitter in the league. So you got to ride that out. But great list. Brian Reynolds, bounce back year, 2022, 2023, all over again. Great to see. Great to see.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about Brian Reynolds later on too. He's I don't want to give a spoiler, but it's a feel-good story, and we do have him listed later on. So let's not. I don't want to get any more of that because I own Brian Reynolds. So I try to be as non-favorable as possible, but that's tough to do when he is performing day in and day out. So let's, on the flip side of that, talk pitchers, right? So first and foremost, you have Brewers starting pitcher Jacob Mizorowski. He's 99.1% owned. That's about 100% in most leagues. What a start. I was playing, actually, I think in our money league, I played Mikey V last week, and this is what I came up against. 1-0, 9 innings pitched, 15 strikeouts, no error, no walk, a one-hitter, complete game shutout, under 100 pitches. Maddox-esque is the word they use these days. 48.32 points. He is your number one fantasy pitcher. This came at home versus the Phillies. Now, again, only concern, 129 innings is his career high. He's at almost 90. What are they going to do? I love the idea of going out and giving them a complete game, but in the back of my mind, they were already up. I want to say the game was out of hand at that point. So I don't know why they couldn't have just said, hey, you know what? Here's your quality start. Go 6 innings and let's put in somebody else. But it's a great story. I get it. First complete game shutout against a really good team at home. It's nice. I just wonder if that's going to cost him later on when they do make the playoffs and these innings start becoming more of a concern. Next up, Mariners starting pitcher Sandy Alcantara. He's 77% owned. 2-0, 14 innings pitched, 13 strikeouts, 5 earned, 2 walks, 44.72 points. First start was in Pittsburgh against the Pirates. Then it was in Philly at Philadelphia. And listen, he's won 4 starts in a row. His ERA is still over a 4. It's 4.18. But he's somehow a top 10 starting pitcher in fantasy. I think he's ranked 9th. I mean, he's been pretty consistent, or should I say inconsistent, throughout the year. Started out hot, cooled down after about 3 or 4 weeks into the month. Now he's getting hot again. He's won 4 in a row. Most inconsistent pitcher. I know in fantasy the potential's there, but if he can just keep it together all year round, you're looking at a number 1, number 2 pitcher in fantasy. But unfortunately, it just hasn't been put together for that long yet. And some honorable mentions here. We have Cardinals starting pitcher Dustin May, former Red Sox pitcher, 42.32 points. Cubs starting pitcher, relief pitcher Javier Assad, he gave you 34.6. Mets starting pitcher Nolan McLean and Red Sox starting pitcher Sonny Gray both gave you around 33. And then, of course, Twins starting pitcher Joe Ryan gave you 32. And before we move on, I do want to say it's funny when you look at these hots lists of like who's hot and honorable mentions. It goes in with the team. Right, if the team does well, usually everybody does well. And with the Mets right now, you can see that with Nolan McLean for the honorable mention, Juan Soto with the honorable mention, and then of course the number 1 scoring offensive player with Bo Bichette. So it's a good story for the Mets. Unfortunately, I just hope it's not too late for them to kind of crawl out of that little hole they're in.
Absolutely agree. I mean, it's a really tough division to be playing in, especially with Atlanta, especially with Phillies. We like those teams. I think we know those are very, very good baseball teams. So again, being so far behind so early in the season, now they have some catch up that they got to do. There's going to be some making up. So great to see them making a bounce back this past week. Great to see some familiar names back there. But I want to start up top first. Jacob Mizorowski, 15 strikeouts. Obviously a fantastic start. One hitter. That one hitter actually grounded into a double play, so he actually got the out. So he only faced 27 batters minimum. And then he also set the record of having had Maddox. And then also 15 strikeouts as well, clipsing Tyler Glasnow's Maddox game. So incredible feat. Like you said, Doug, it's a little risque with a guy that's only had 129 career innings so far. He's already up to almost 90. So again, we're gonna have to keep a pretty much a pulse on that for the remainder of the year, in my opinion. Just because eventually we might see a little bit of a cutback. A very good Milwaukee team, they're gonna need this guy at the end. So I think at the same time, they're gonna need to relay, kind of like I don't know, cut his innings down a little bit. I'd say maybe August, September. They're pretty much in that division to win it. So again, we'll see the backtrack. But right now, number one pitcher in fantasy, Sandy. Man, what a curious case of Sandy Alcantara, huh? You just never know what you're gonna get with the guy. I just really don't know if he's going to be with Miami, to be honest. They're playing pretty good baseball, but at the same time, I do think eventually they're gonna have to field some offers for him. So if they continue winning games, it's going to be hard to shop him because, again, 2 wild card spots, they could be one of those teams that comes in and sneaks in. They're just kind of built like that. Offensively, they're kind of good. Pitching, they're kind of good too. Max Meyer, Eroy Perez is going to be coming back, and then you got Sandy at the top. So they actually have a pretty decent team all around, I think. So we'll see where that goes. But like you said, Dustin May had a fantastic start, going 44-plus points. Incredible. 42. Nolan McLean, his whip is like a 1.09 or something. And I usually use that as an indicator of saying, hey, this guy's actually not pitching that bad. He's not putting a ton of guys on base. But for some reason, Mets aren't winning baseball games. If you're in a points league, our league, it's 10 points. It's a lot of points. If you're not getting wins, it's really tough to trust them to put in that lineup. But again, Mets are on fire. He was part of that. That's why he's on this list. So, again, great hots. Hopefully they keep it all up. That's all you can ask for.
Right. I mean, the Dustin May thing is, what a great story, right? I mean, a guy who got hurt with the Dodgers. They decided to move on from him, obviously, because they were in it to win it and signed on all these bigger pitchers, really. I mean, Tyler Glasnow, you went out and got Blake Snell. So they trade him, give him to the Red Sox. Red Sox, he does all right, but they just move on. They don't really give him a chance. So for him to kind of find a home in St. Louis and be the pitcher he's looking at right now, which is, 42 points. He went 2-0 his last 7, won both starts. That's a great story. Really good story. And Nolan McLean, I just think he's one of those guys where he's so young. There's going to be an up and down. It's a roller coaster with him because he's so young. He needs to get adjusted, and when he finally gets adjusted, hitters get adjusted, and it's just a game of catch up constantly. So I think I don't know if I would trust him going forward this year. He's more of a matchups guy, but in the year, like next year and maybe the year after, obviously he's still young. He still throws hard. That's when I would maybe start reaching for him in drafts. Right now, I kind of just go with the flow with him.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
All right, so let's put on the parkas. And let's check out who's not so hot. Let's check out the coldest players of this past week.
Oof.
And, man, I got to tell you, if there was ever a face to make this list, it's Andy Paget right there. That man just looks like he just committed some type of felony and got his picture taken with his baseball hat on. It just looks crazy. So let me give you the stats. We'll go hitters first, and we'll talk Nico Hornier. Again, second baseman, Cubs, 95.5% owned. It's a tough week, right? 0-4-8, no homers, a ribby, a run, 4 strikeouts, no stolen bases, 0 points. Give you nothing. And these are matchups you would expect him to take advantage of. 1 game in Colorado against the Rockies, 3 games in San Francisco against the Giants, and then he plays 3 games again at home versus the Rockies. Like, these are games that you take advantage of as a hitter. And to only hit .048 in that 7-game stretch is a tough pill to swallow. You can talk about him in a little while once I'm done, Mike, because I know you own him.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, his numbers ever since he got hit in the head with the fastball have been horrible. And I'm talking about 3 or 4 weeks ago, almost a month at this point, batting around 176. As of today, 176. This was a guy who was your number 1 first baseman for the entire month to start the year. He was on fire. He was hitting, I want to say, 340, 350 for the year. It was an amazing, it was the Nico you knew you were going to get. And then that happens. And it kind of makes me wonder if there's something wrong, because I remember when Anthony Rizzo was with the Yankees, he got hit in the head as well. He struggled for a few months, and then it was reported after that he had a really serious concussion, and that was why he struggled because he was hitting over 300 before he got hit. So I wonder if maybe this is kind of like a similar thing, right? I mean, Rizzo, he ended up missing the rest of the season. He ultimately retired. So I really think there might be something more to just he's just not seeing the ball. Well, obviously, he's not seeing the ball. He's not hitting the ball, but I wonder if there's more to it.
I think you kind of hit that right on the head there, right? No pun intended there. But yeah, he's struggling right now. He's having a really hard time. Just keeping up with the fastball too. It's already hard enough, Doug, to hit a fastball in a Major League Baseball. But after you go through something like that with a drama of getting hit in the head, it's tough to get comfortable in the box again. And it's like you have no time to recover from that too. Once you're healthy and activated, you got to go back out there and you got to do it again. And saying that, like you said, it's been about a month now, and it's not getting any better. There hasn't been any adjustments made by him, and we're starting to see a lot of that average 0.048. Is that real?
That's for the week.
That's bad. That's really bad. That's like one hit. That's you're talking like a 1 for 20. 1 for 21 probably actually. That math works out, right? And that's not good. That's obviously unacceptable in fantasy baseball. And this is a guy that was definitely drafted top 3, top 4 second baseman in the league. So it's tough. Maybe if you have him, if you're an owner, yes, it's a bad time to probably trade him. You're not going to probably get the value that you want. But you also have to look at the flip side and think, is he going to be back to what he was when he was in April? And I don't think he is. I really don't. I think you have to explore options moving forward at second base. It's just a tough situation for Nico Horner because we know how good he can be.
Right. No, I totally agree. And then next up on this list, you want to talk about someone that got cold pretty quick. Dodgers outfielder Anthony Paget. He's 96.7% owned. He hit $160. No homers, no ribbies, 1 run, 8 strikeouts, 0 points. Again, you look at the matchups that he played this week and you'd say, well, you know what? He's probably going to hit you at least a home run or 2, right? A game at Pittsburgh against the Pirates, 3 games at Chicago versus the White Sox, and 3 games home versus the Rays. I think, and Mike, is it safe to say that Paget has finally fallen back down to earth like we all predicted he would? Like I'm sure it doesn't help that Roberts moves him up to second in the order, move Mookie down, then moves him sometimes back to 6th or 7th. Like it just that inconsistency doesn't help. But it's just I don't know. I feel like we saw this coming. We knew that Paget couldn't keep his numbers were unsustainable. And I just think now he's fallen back. Not to say he can't pick himself back up, but to expect that type of production that he did for that entire last month to replicate that is going to be a tough feat to follow.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right on that, and we've seen it in the past too. You love to bring up that Tigers player, Brandon Inge, right? We saw how hot he was years ago. This is obviously a dated example, but it's just an example of a guy being really, really good, starting off really, really hot, being one of the better players in the league and hitting, and then all of a sudden it catches up to him. Pitchers catch up to him. They catch something that they may say, hey, he can't hit that corner fastball, breaking ball, whatever it is, gets to a certain count. There's the book's out on him now. That's how I look at this with Andy Paez. And sometimes mismanaging a lineup can result in a bad result of, having a just not a successful, future. It's just he's hot. He was hot, and now he's not. And you move him up in the lineup, and I think he's uncomfortable with that a little bit. And he was batting in that 6-7 home when he was really hitting the ball well. Yeah. That's where he probably should go back because the other guys like Ohtani, and I know Mookie Betts has been struggling, and I know he's usually like their number 2 guy, but you got to kind of ride it out, I feel, at times. You got to put people where they're comfortable. You got Freddie still batting 3rd. When Will Smith is healthy, he's batting 4th. Max Muncy's probably, batting 4th or 5th right now too. So, put him where he's comfortable. Now with the streak going the way it is, you need to make an adjustment with that.
I totally agree. And that's a great point because he might not be producing. Mookie Betts might not be producing, but everybody else in that lineup is. Mm-hmm. So why not just keep Mookie second in the order, let the team kind of bash their way out of that and ride with it. Like, why mess it around? I mean, those your big hitters are going to hit, right? Freddie's kind of looked like he's turned the pages back to, his second year with the Dodgers. He looks great.
Mm-hmm.
Otani's Otani. Like, they're all hitting, obviously, except for Mookie and for Page now. I just think you kind of switch them back to the way they were, ride it out. I mean, you're winning games regardless. What does it matter? What does it matter?
It doesn't matter. They have 3 months of baseball still to figure it out before the playoffs. I think they'll be fine. And really, I think you just got to expect a different expectation from him. That's all.
Right. So some honorable mentions here. Philly shortstop Trey Turner, first baseman, Bryce Harper only gave you 2 points. Guardians outfielder Stephen Kwan, Marlins second base shortstop Xavier Edwards, and Braves catcher Drake Baldwin all gave you 3 points for the week. And then Rays first baseman Yandy Diaz only gave you 4 for the week.
Yeah, a couple surprising names on here. One guy that I'm a little concerned about is definitely Trey Turner. The way he's playing right now, he's only averaging 1.9 points a game. So, again, just really hasn't hit that stride yet this year. Same thing with Stephen Kwan. Definitely not going to kill you with the strikeouts, but, man, he's still not getting you any points anyway. He still doesn't hit home runs. So, again, just kind of been an off year for Stephen Kwan as well. Xavier Woods been so good this year. We can kind of give him a pass, I think, for this week. He's just been so elite for Miami. And then again, Drake Baldwin, too, coming back from the IL. It's only his first week, so give him some time. He was really good in that first half before getting hurt. So I would still be okay with starting him next week. It's just, an adjustment coming back. That's all that is. But, yeah, I think Trey Turner is definitely a concern moving forward.
All right. So let's talk pitchers, okay? Couple surprises, some tough ones. I mean, I'm a big Emerson Hancock guy. You know that.
Yes, sir.
But let's start with the coldest pitcher of them all. White Sox starting pitcher Davis Martin. He's 85% owned. He went 0-1. He got the loss. 3 1/3, 4 strikeouts, 3 walks, and 9 earned. That is 4 strikeouts, 9 earned, -8 points, 8.4 for the week. That's tough. That was in New York against the Yankees. Then we had Mariners starting pitcher Emerson Hancock, who's 80% owned. He got the loss. He went 4 innings, only had 2 strikeouts, no walks, but 6 earned, -7 points. That's a tough pill to swallow. And then a couple honorable mentions here. Braves. Starting pitcher, Spencer Strider, Bryce Elder. They gave you -7. Gavin Williams for the Guardians and Padres starting pitcher Michael King gave you -5. And then Philly starting pitcher Christopher Sanchez gave you -3. Oh, and Skubal. Tariq Skubal, Tiger starting pitcher, he gave you -1. So a couple of honorable mentions there. Some surprises. I think Emerson Hancock to me was against Washington in Washington. I felt like that was a start that he could have kind of really dominated. But, I mean, that Washington offense, you give it to them. They're hit or miss. And when they're hitting. That's for sure.
Yeah, we talked about it last week a little bit with them. Luis Garcia Jr., CJ Abrams, James Wood, obviously, just absolutely smashing the ball. Sneaky good offense. So Emerson Hancock to have that rough outing. Again, having a great year so far. Really his first full year being in that rotation, really beating out Luis Castillo, who's just having a poor year. But Emerson Hancock's been a pleasant surprise for that rotation. He ran into a clunker. I do think he's going to recover fine, so I think he'll be fine moving forward. Some pitchers that have been pitching really good is starting to catch up with them a little bit, right? You talked about, Dennis Martin. You talked about Gavin Williams, who was really hot in the beginning of the year. He's striking out a lot of batters, one of the top strikeout guys in the league. But now it's starting to catch up a little bit, and you're starting to see a little bit of fatigue, I think, moving forward. And that happens with these young guys that are starting to build up inning counts. So I think it's just a little bit of bumps in the road. That's what I'm going to call it. I'm going to call it bumps in the road. But I truly think that some of these guys on this list are going to be just fine moving forward.
I do. And I did want to say I am kind of watching this Tigers game against the White Sox. And remember, White Sox are in first place here. So they got something to play for, something they haven't had something to play for the last 5 years at the very least, maybe decade. But Skubal's out of the game. He went 5 1/3. He gave up 3. He's on the hook for the loss. He didn't give you the quality start. So, he might even be on this list again next week if they don't at least tie the game and get him off the hook. I don't know if maybe they rushed him back too quick. I mean, he looks great when he's going. I mean, he pitched really good the first 3 innings, right?
Mm-hmm.
Looked like he was cruising and then just kind of imploded. I wonder if maybe they should have given him a little more time off from that injury instead of rushing him back. But I mean, at this point, they're in DEFCON, right? I mean, we talk about they might be in a lost season. You go out and you get a Valdez, and you're trying to hope to win the division, and now you're almost double digits out. You're almost 5 games out of the wild card. Like, that's not what you expect when you're spending this type of money for talent. And Valdez hasn't produced. Skubal, he's supposed to be your savior. You kind of rush him back to kind of help maybe get a couple wins to, especially a big series against the White Sox, who now are in first. You know, you want to at least get a couple wins to even out the playing field, and it's just not happening. It's just not. I think maybe they rushed him back, but that Tigers team, you know, it's you kind of wish they just I don't know. I wish they invested more in the offense as far as the pitching, but you know, it is what it is at this point for them.
Couple things with Skubal. You know, he's had this new surgery. They're calling it the Skubal surgery, so that way he didn't have to get 3 months of cleanup instead of just maybe a month, in a week or so. Then when he came back, so this is all kind of like experimental. This is all very new still, and also, if he's healthy and he is 100% ready to go, and he did say in his last start afterwards that it wasn't because he has some rust, it's because it was him on the mound. So I'm curious to see what he says about the game, about tonight on his performance. But at the same time, though, too, a guy like Skubal with his quality, he's supposed to be the guy that's supposed to stop the bleeding for your team. And, we back in the day, we're from Boston. We saw Pedro Martinez. We saw Pedro Martinez go out there, and it's like, hey, it's Pedro Day. We don't have to worry. He's going to go out there. He's going to go 7 innings. He's not going to give up any runs, and we're going to win this baseball game. And that's what you should be thinking about when you have Skubal out there too. But right now, I think there is some rust. I don't think he believes that, but I see rust on there. And I think right now he needs just a little bit more time before he is that same guy that he was before. But right now, it's just not the same guy.
Okay. All right. Well, that's always fun to talk about hot and cold hitters. It's always fun. Now let's move into what I like. This is my funnest part.
Ooh.
Is selling high and buying low. And this is where we talk about 2 players. We're going to bring up a hitter and a pitcher who's had an amazing week, and maybe someone you could sell based off of that week's stats. And when I say sell, I mean sell high, like a player that you might have picked up off of free agency that is just overperforming, where you can go out and you can trade him for a huge contributor to your team, Let's just go in before I start explaining myself, okay? And I don't want to start with that. I want to start with, there we go. Nope, that is not the guy.
Wow, Jacob DeGrom doing flips.
We're going to talk about Jacob DeGrom, but this is the guy I really wanted to start with. This is Brian Reynolds, okay? Yeah. Brian Reynolds, outfielder for the Pirates. He's 85% owned. Really amazing year. 283. I mean, if you're in a Cats league and you got this guy late, or even a free agent pickup off the waiver wire, you struck gold, right? 283 average, 10 homers, 47 ribbies, 50 runs, 69 strikeouts, 5 stolen bases, 2.9 a start. He's got 214 points. I mean, in a Cats league, you can't ask for anything more. I mean, the guy checks all the boxes, really. He's got a couple stolen bases. You're looking at 100 ribbies, 100 runs, maybe 25 plus strikeouts, a 280 average. I mean, that's money, right? And then for the week, 458, 3 homers, 7 ribbies, 5 runs, 4 strikeouts, 34 points, 4.9 a start. Every time you started this guy, he gave you almost 5 points this past week.
Wow.
I mean, what a renaissance year for Reynolds, who looks to have found a home in the middle of that Pittsburgh order. Let's talk about that, right? I mean, listen, I might be biased. I do own him, but I'm also realistic. These numbers for him might not be sustainable. They just might not, But it's weird because every time I say, oh, you know what, this week I wouldn't be surprised if he falls back down, he never does. Like he's just been consistent every single week. And I know this guy in our money league, he was picked off of free agency.
Mm-hmm.
Now imagine picking up a guy up off of the waiver wire, not costing you a draft pick at all, and he has more points than Andy Diaz, Bryce Harper, Kyle Tucker, Freddie Freeman, Alonso, Junior Caminero. I mean, I can go on and on.
Mm-hmm.
It is insane. Now, here's my point. If you think he can maintain this then by all means hold him. I won't hate you for it. But if you're looking to cash in on the diamond in the rough that you found, this is a ceiling. He can't get any harder than this. A free agent pickup usually means he's a depth guy that really was never intended to start. But he's transformed into a must start. And if you have the depth, which I assume you do because he was picked up off of free agency, I would not hate trading him and moving on from him today and getting a haul for him because I think he's worth it. Just because it's been, 2.5 months so far, almost 3 months of baseball, and he still has not slowed down. So I think this could be a really great time and a really good opportunity to sell on Brian Reynolds. But again, I wouldn't hate if you kept him. Just wouldn't hate it.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm going through the top 10 of outfielders, and it's just funny because it's just kind of an outliner guy that just kind of pops out. You're talking, like you said, you just named a bunch of guys there. But, going back to like the list of outfielders, he's beaten guys like Soto, Mike Trout, Pages, who was so hot we just talked about earlier, right? Pete Crow Armstrong, they're all right under him. And, Randy Rosarina is actually under there too. But those are outliner guys, right? Randy Rosarina, now he's on the IL. Mike Trout, we thought he was back. Now he's got this hamstring injury. Now he's on the IL.
Crazy.
So I know, right? Like crazy. Never thought that he was going to get hurt again, right? But again, like with Brian Reynolds, he's a guy that we saw a couple of years ago that was very, very good, very consistent for the Pirates team. And then last year we saw him fall into space. And now this year he's bouncing back. It is a better lineup. But let me ask you this, Doug. The Pittsburgh Pirates right now, we talked about them last week. They're a top 5 offensive team.
Yep.
You got to ask yourself, do you think this team is going to be a top 5 offensive team by the end of the year?
I mean, if you would have told me they were a top offensive team now, I would have said no.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're talking about down the line. I don't know. I really don't. I mean, just think they're still scoring runs without O'Neal Cruz in that lineup. So obviously when he comes back, that's a little bit of a boost. Although it depends what O'Neal Cruz is coming back from injury. Could be the one that strikes out all the time, or could be the one that gets on base and hits home runs. I don't know. But I will say, no matter what happens, Brian Reynolds will still be hitting cleanup in that lineup. So he'll get his everyday at bats. He'll steal you a base once in a while. And to think, I do think this momentum can carry only because in the past, I feel like he's had way more power. Like he's only got 10 home runs. I feel like in the past he might have a little more if this was like the Reynolds of old. So I feel like he might have changed his swing just a little bit to become a little more of a contact hitter, which is why you're seeing a 283 plus, right? I mean, usually I want to say a couple years ago you were looking at 265 with, 20, 25 homers, really good year, but still now he's 280, right? Now he looks like he's cut down on the strikeouts a little bit. He's got a couple stolen bases. Like I said, in the Cats League, this is the guy you kind of want, right? A cheap guy that you got for almost nothing that is now a top 10 outfielder. I think he can maintain it, but I would not hate if you went out and you sold him for something a little better. Not to say he's not good. I'm just saying, like, you got him so late, you can go out and you can get yourself an 8th round hitter as opposed to him, which was like a late 20s round hitter. It's, I don't know, like, or a pitcher. You can go out and you should be able to get somebody really, really good for him. Mm-hmm. And I think this is a great opportunity to just cash it.
Yeah. Hey, we were talking about George Kirby offline. Would you do a Brian Reynolds for like a George Kirby straight up, right? We know he's a little bit of struggles right now, right? But we know the points are kind of more in Reynolds' favor at this point.
They are.
But would you do something like that? Because, again, do you think he's overperforming a little bit? He's going to get his at-bats, like you said. When you think like that, you kind of have like a more of a flexibility on what value you're going to put on him, right?
I think you could do better than that.
Yeah.
I think you can do better than a Kirby. I really do. I think Kirby's been struggling. Now, if this was the Kirby from like 3 weeks ago when he was on fire and wasn't giving up a ton of runs and his ERA was like a 2.53, then I'd say, oh yeah, let's do that 1 for 1, But now Kirby's struggling and Reynolds isn't. So it's a tough pill to swallow. I think you could do better than a Kirby. I really do.
Okay. Yeah, I think you're right. I think you can do something more like what about like a Gavin Williams, right? We just talked about him a little bit. Yeah, he's on the cold list. But
that's spicy.
at the same time, though, he's been producing really well for Cleveland. Obviously overperforming at this point, but maybe this is a little bit of a breakout. He's a young guy. He's got the stuff clearly.
Yep.
Maybe this is the guy. Maybe that's the type of player. Like you said, Corey
great
Kirby
trade.
right now is a little mid, but yeah, I think that might be something a little bit more safer than a Kirby.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great trade. Really good call on that part. So speaking of pitchers, let's talk about a pitcher that I think would be a really good sell high guy for this past week. And Mike, you know this guy. There he is. It's like someone just told him, "Hey man, we're gonna sell you." Like, look at that picture. Like, dude, we're gonna sell you. Oh man, again. Let me read off why. Okay, look, this is, of course, if you don't know, this is starting pitcher for the Yankees, Carlos Rondon. 68% owned, almost 70%. 3 to start, which is serviceable for sure, right? 3-2, 36 innings pitched, 41 strikeouts, a strikeout an inning, 20 walks, kind of a lot of walks, a 3.5 ERA. His last start, 1-0, got the win, 5 innings, 3 earned, 7 strikeouts against the White Sox, got you 16.4 points, which is still very well, although you'd like to see the quality start in there. Listen, Mike, you know I'm not a Rondon guy. I never really was. I owned him when he was with the San Francisco Giants, and to me that was a breakout year. That was a career year.
Yeah.
I just knew those numbers were kind of tough to replicate, and then he signs with the Yankees, and then he just implodes. But last year wasn't bad. This year he hasn't looked terrible. 3.5 ERA, 11.3. I looked at some of the history. This guy was drafted around the 15th round as an IL stash, right? Because he was on the IL and people were thinking he'd come back, and you can get a really good late round pick for him. So 15th round IL stash, hoping he could come back strong. And I think he has. Excuse me. Listen, a healthy Rondon goes in the top 10 rounds. And now that he's healthy, he should be worth someone that was drafted that high. He pitches behind one of the best offenses in baseball, even without Judge, which should allow for a few cheap wins here and there. Still throws hard, still Ks at a decent clip. If you want to cash in on him, this would be the time. The longer you hold, the more chance he has to look worse with each start. I'm sure there'll be growing pains with him after having missed so much time, but do you really want to experience those pains? Do you? No. Come on. Trade him. Get a needed bat that was drafted well before the time you drafted Rondon, and let those pains be your buyer's problem, not your problem. I feel like I just am trying to sell a car. But I will admit that I don't think Carlos Rondon going forward might be he's inconsistent. He'll be an inconsistent pitcher. You got him in the 15th round. He's healthy. He's putting together decent numbers right now. Here's your chance to sell him and get somebody that was drafted way before you got him. This is a great return on investment. You held on this guy for 2.5 months, waiting for him to come back from injury, come back strong, and he has. Now your wait's over. He's producing a little bit. Why don't you go out and get a bat for him or something?
Yeah, especially with all the stashes this year in drafts, right? We talk about Zach Wheeler. We talk about Hunter Green. We talk about, Strider at the time, right? And you still got other guys that are still being stashed, right? Schrolenbach is still out there. Who knows what's going to happen with some of these guys. Carlos Rondon, this is a guy that you drafted late, like you said, Doug. And again, you just don't know what sometimes you're going to get out of him. And right now, he's pitching at a pretty good level where it can go one way or the other. He can keep this up, or all of a sudden he might just tank and give up 5-6 runs, consistently, I'm saying as well, not just in one outing. The plus side with Rondon, too, he does play for the Yankees. So if he continues to pitch well, he's going to have a lot of opportunities to get a lot of points by getting more wins. So it's a guy that you have to kind of really evaluate and think, do I really want to keep this guy? Do I believe in this guy? And then also you got to look at your staff, too, and say, do I have enough material in this staff where I can say I can get rid of this guy as well? For a Carlos Rondon, Doug, you don't usually mess with Carlos Rondon. You're not a Carlos Rondon guy, really at all.
No.
But if you had to put a name on it, right? If you had a Carlos Rondon, which you would be a seller for, you would be selling this guy. You're not going to put a big price tag on him because you probably know he's going to go the other way. What would be like a position that you would be looking for that would kind of fit the bill? I see you looking at a list right there. One name pops out. What about a Sal Stewart, right? a Sal Stewart, very streaky guy, got the power, multi positions. He can score you 30, 40 points a week in a really, really good week. Is that something that you would be interested in? What are your thoughts?
That I think Sal Stewart might be able to get you someone a little better. Maybe not too much better, but just a little bit. I think a fun one for me would be maybe like a Bo Bichette.
Oh, wow.
I mean, yeah, he's breaking out, but let's not forget when he's cold, he's cold. I mean, 2 years ago, he had a horrible year when he was with Toronto. Injury plagued, hitting right around 220, was just not rosterable. Last year, of course, contract year, comes out, mashes the ball, becomes a top 5 shortstop, looks amazing, signs this massive deal with the Mets, and then just kind of is flat again. I think his inconsistency and Rondon's inconsistency are very similar.
Yeah.
If that was the case, it's tough to say who I would really want. If say I have a Jose Ramirez and he's on the IL, and I had a Rondon who I drafted in the 15th round, maybe I do trade him and get a Bo Bichette to cover third base.
Yeah, and I think Bo Bichette's floor is probably higher, right? Because he doesn't strike out,
right?
Right. So I think that's a good move. A bad Rendon start can be bad, and he can kill you for the week. So I think that's a pretty good move. I like that.
Mike, I'm just glad you like that.
Always.
Sometimes I don't think you like my choices.
We've been doing this for what, 20 years, Doug?
21.
21 years.
I think I had dark brown hair right here before it got gray and white.
Yeah, same thing with my beard. I got a little white now. What's going on?
All right, so we're talking about sellers. Let's talk about buyers. And before we get in, let me just
who doesn't like to not talk about buying?
So
best part.
These are guys that I think were drafted late, maybe performing much higher than where they were drafted, that you might be able to go out and get and not cost you a ton. And the first one might surprise you. And honestly, I think, Mike, when you saw the picture, you didn't even know who he was. Here he is. Great picture. If you don't know who that is the Cardinals catcher, DH, Ivan Herrera, 78% owned. Listen, his average is not going to wow you in a Cats league, like a 258 for the year. He's only got 9 homers. He's got 31 ribbies. He's got 48 runs. So he's on pace for 100 runs as a catcher, right? 52 strikeouts, 5 stolen bases, 2.6 a start, 192 points. Those are really, really good. 208 for the week, 2 homers, 3 ribbies, 6 runs, 2 strikeouts, 3 stolen bases, 28 points. Gave you 4 points a start. Talk about another diamond in the rough.
Mm-hmm.
Free agent pickup. He's a top 5 catcher. And one of the toughest positions to roster. This guy's been holding it down. And I am all in on the Herrera. I am. I owned him last year. His numbers were pretty similar. Actually, scary similar. And I'll go over those in a second. He's not going to kill you if he's in a slump. But when he's going, he is going. I mean, if you look at the week, 4 points to start is really good for a catcher. It's good for anybody, not just a catcher. Now, catcher is a position I usually just punt on because the top 5 catchers are just so unpredictable, and they change year in and year out, right? Cal Riley last year was a top catcher. Now look at him, right? A few years back, it was Will Smith who was a top catcher. Again, it's a tough position to buy in on. I think if you punted on catcher, you might be able to maybe go out and get an Ivan Herrera and not have to pay a top 5 catcher ransom. Again, he's not a sexy name.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't play for a sexy team. And if he was, let's say these numbers were Cal Riley or Will Smith, you'd automatically be paying a ton more just on the namesake alone. We all know what names can do for fantasy owners, right? He bats right in front of Burleson. He bats right in front of Walker. He should be a shoo-in for 100 runs this year. And a catcher with 100 runs is a rarity in baseball, fantasy. He's only 26. I think next year you might be talking about a guy that'll actually be drafted in the top 8 to 10 rounds, depending on league depth. He's on pace to smash all his career highs from last year. And you know what the crazy part is? His WAR is exactly the same. 2.3 last year, 2.3 this year so far. I think this is the time to buy him. I think if owners own him, he was, like I said, picked up off of free agency as more of a either bench depth or maybe just insurance if you had a catcher like a Cal Riley. So they might be able to trade him or maybe the original catcher they drafted. And anyway, I would definitely try and go out and get him. I like I said, he doesn't hurt you, gets on base a lot, gets hit. He has 21 hit by pitches this year so far, which is insane. He had like 2 the other day in a game. But his numbers are great. I think he's great. He's a diamond in the rough. I love him. I'm all in on him. I love Ivan.
You love Ivan. I love Ivan. I like it. No, I think with catching, right? I think catching and relief pitchers, we focus so much on all the other positions, starting pitching, first base, outfield, all that good stuff. But really, your competitive edge comes from that catcher position and from that relief position, I feel. If you can find 2 guys that can get you elite points in those positions, that's going to give you a better edge, I think, overall. And this year, we've seen an uptick, I feel, in productive catchers. And Ivan is definitely one of those guys. He is a top 3 catcher at this point. Kind of snuck in there a little bit. He kind of just grazed his way in there, past the Cal Rileys of the world, past the Adleys of the world, right? Like, he's just absolutely matching it in a great lineup as well. We talk about Burleson all the time. We talk about Jordan Walker. It's just a fun lineup, JJ Witherhall. Like, it's a dynamic lineup. And we talk about how sometimes good lineups make guys better around them. Ivan, I think, is benefiting from that as well. I think overall the lineup as well. Specifically, I think Herrera is one of those guys you do want to at least pay for a little bit. So if you have extra depth at a position, you find that team that needs that depth. And if they got that Ivan Herrera character, that's who you target right there. I think that's a great target to get because I don't think he's going anywhere, Doug. I don't think he's going anywhere. I think he's going to be just as productive as he is now and in August and in September toward the end of the year, especially during playoffs. So that's a slam dunk, I think, in my eyes for a catcher position because, again, they're just such an outlining position.
Yeah.
Liam Hicks, awesome this year, right? If you snagged him early on, you're producing with him. I think he's averaging still 2.8, 2.9 points. He's still being at a high level production as a catcher. But clearly this year, nobody is running away with it. Like drafts, we thought Cal Riley, maybe. We didn't know he was going to have the career year, right? But
I knew.
Yeah, you did. You did say that. But again, you thought maybe 30 plus home runs, right? That doesn't seem like that's going to happen. William Contreras having a little bit of a bounce back, but still not totally producing like what he was years previously. So you got to find those outlandish guys, and then you got to attack them. You got to go out and get them. And, yeah, you're going to have to pay a little bit for them now too because Ivan Herrera, the cat's out of the bag. So you're going to have to pay. Like I said, if you got extra depth in a position, maybe you go out and you get a guy like an Ivan Herrera.
No, I like it. And last but not least, we all saw the picture earlier. There he is. Like he's looking up. He's like, "Oh, I know you want me." So this is a great. I think this is a really good buy low. And when I say low, it's even going to be lower now because he gave up 5 in the first against the Padres. Although Texas scored 6 in the bottom of the first, so he now has the win. He's in line for it anyways. But we'll see how he does the rest of the game. Of course, I'm talking about Rangers starting pitcher Jacob deGrom. He's 98% owned. Pretty good year, right? 5-4, 76 innings pitched, 89 strikeouts. So strikeout an inning, 15 walks, a 3.1 ERA, which obviously went up after today. 158 points, 11.3 a start, which is really good, right? Last start at Boston, 6 innings, 5 strikeouts, 2 earned, no walks, got the no decision, gave you 10.88 points. Now here comes the truth, right? DeGrom is not the DeGrom of old. So let's just wash that out of our minds. He is still a very good stud pitcher, but every now and then he's due for a clunker, right? 6 earned at the Yankees, 4 earned at Houston against the Stros, 3 innings, 6 earned at the Angels in Los Angeles, and now you can even add the Padres, just gave you 5 earned. I think owners might finally be realizing this is who he is now, right? Still a big strikeout guy, but in 14 of his last starts, he failed to go 6 innings 6 times. He went 5 innings or less, 5 of those 6. Still a great pitcher, don't get me wrong, but he's not pitching like a guy you drafted in and around the 4th round. He's currently ranked 30th in starting pitching, And a lot of people, if you're drafting a pitcher that high, you're drafting them as your starting pitcher one, your SP1.
Mm-hmm.
This is more of an SP2, SP3 type guy. Not only just because of the way he's pitching, but also because of the Tigers' offense. Really not, special. Let's be honest. Especially you got Simeon's not in that lineup anymore. Seager's on the IL again. It was the second time this year. I buy him just on the fact that he shouldn't cost me a player who was drafted in and around where DeGrom was.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to trade a fourth-round player for a player like him that was drafted in the fourth round is what I'm trying to say. And this would actually be a great 2-for-1 trade. I think you trade a decent starting pitcher and a hitter and go out and get him. But I think you keep in mind, this should be your SP. This is not your SP1, right? You should go out and get him, but not get him and think that he's going to be your number one starting pitcher. That's just not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
He's also due for an IL visit. At least once a year, he usually likes to visit the IL. So I really think that's going to play a part. So just keep in mind that a visit might be looming. And you're talking about selling high. This looks like a guy like a Brian Reynolds. Like a Brian Reynolds for a Jacob deGrom. Like you're buying low, you're selling high. Like I feel like it might be one of those trades where you just at the end of the day might be a perfect trade.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, listen, we were deGrom guys with the Mets. Like we knew he was a stud. It's just constantly got hurt. Now he's older, still throws hard, but he's like Justin Verlander. He's kind of nearing the end. And honestly, I was reading today, Verlander might retire. He said he had another setback in his, I think he had a hamstring strain during his warm-ups or during a rehab start earlier yesterday or the day before. So he's shut down, so he might retire. And honestly, I think Jacob deGrom isn't too far behind, as crazy as that sounds.
Drafting him, right? He was like you said, fourth, fifth round. Like he was kind of like almost in that second, third tier, when it comes to starting pitching. I think more in that third tier, right? You had the big three, and then you had like the Frieds and stuff like that. And then he was kind of a little bit behind that. But man, you have to set a realistic expectation going into the season of what you expect from guys, especially the deGrom, who's been in the league for a while, has injuries. You can't just think he's just going to be this, end-all, be-all 2015, 2016 deGrom elite guy. Like if you got 160, 170 innings out of him, and if he does strike out a batter per inning and he has around a 3 ERA, I think that's a successful year. But like you said, Doug, that's not a number one. That's a number two. That's a number three. I do think there's some juice in the tank still, but you got to set the realistic expectation of what you're expecting from him. And when I say that, also from a trade value standpoint, don't break the bank on the guy, but you got to take in consideration that he's still going to produce. So Brian Reynolds, I don't hate it. I don't think it's terrible, especially if you have a need, especially with like pitching. Sometimes you just have injuries and they just happen. We just saw a couple of guys in Milwaukee just get hurt. Kyle Harrison, and then you have not Kyle Harrison, Quinn Pressler, and you had Logan Harris, Henderson. So there's other guys like out there that you're gonna have to evaluate and try to replace. And it's not easy to replace, but a Jacob deGrom might be not breaking the bank where you have to spend a whole lot to get him. I don't think you have to do that with him.
My only hesitation though is like if I'm an owner. There are certain owners that because it's Jacob deGrom, because it's this name, right? They're going to want someone who's drafted in the fourth round or the third round. They're going to want a stud back for him because they think he's a stud. But when you look at the overall numbers, he's just not a stud anymore.
Do you think he's on the block? Do you think Texas is thinking about?
I think it's too early. I think they're still in the hunt, right? They're Houston, they're all kind of fighting for that first place still. They're only a couple games out of the wild card, but it all depends. If they do become sellers, I do think he will be on the block, although I believe he has a full no trade clause in his contract. So he will have to approve the destination he gets traded to. Where? I don't know. I know he's already said I don't think he wants to pitch for the Yankees, so I think that dream would be gone. But who knows? How fun would it be to see the White Sox make a push and then go out and get him with like a Davis Martin, a Sean Burke, a Kay, and just kind of put that pitching in perspective for them and get a DeGrom and add that. I mean, if that doesn't make a lineup think, okay, you know what? Now our owner's buying in on us. Let's go out and let's win this freaking division. Like, I don't know what would.
There's definitely a momentum shift there when that does happen. And a team like the White Sox, it's a little bit of an outliner team for sure. We didn't expect the White Sox to be in first place on June 19th, but here we are. And now you got to consider, are they legit or not? I mean, at this point, you have to kind of say they are because they've been keeping it up. And, man, if they just got that one more starting pitcher, that could really put them over the top because their offense is really good. I like their offense. They might strike out a little bit, but from like a non-fantasy perspective, they produce. So a move like that, I don't hate it. I don't think that's unrealistic. And I also think the White Sox do have some surplus and prospects there.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be interesting. I know that if they do sell, I know there are like Jacob deGrom doesn't want to go to the Yankees. He doesn't want to go to the Dodgers. Like, so I know there are certain spots that he wouldn't want to go to. I would have said maybe Detroit. I'm sure he'd be I feel like he's a Detroit guy, in my opinion. I don't think they'll be in the hunt. I just think they'll be sellers.
The other team, too, is the Braves. I think the Braves do need one more starting pitcher. That would be an interesting spot.
Spencer Strider's out, right?
Yep. They need that next guy. And, yeah, that means they're going to have two, 36-plus-year-olds in their rotation and Sale and DeGrom. But it doesn't matter. If you're producing, go for it. And like you said, they got Spencer Schwellenbach, they got Strider. Like, when it comes to the long-term, rotation, I don't think it's totally broken. Obviously, this year with the injuries, it's a little tough. But if you went out and said, hey, I got a DeGrom, and now I got a Sale, a DeGrom, hopefully a healthy Spencer Schwellenbach down the road, hopefully a Spencer Strider that's ready for the playoffs. Now you're cooking with something there. So there's some potential there, I think, with the Braves.
No, I would totally agree. It'd be interesting to see what happens anyways. But, all right. So for Mikey V, I'm Doug. This is Bourbon N Ball. We had a chance to talk about some of the hottest hitters, some of the hottest pitchers, and some really good sell high, buy low guys. Hopefully you do the right thing. You go out, you make the right decision that's better for your roster so that you win next week. Now, don't forget, speaking of next week, we'll be back here live. Mikey V will not be in the cave. Mikey V will be in Clearwater, Florida, but I will be in the cave live, 8 p.m. Eastern, answering questions right here on FSAN. And don't forget to watch us on YouTube Mondays. We usually release our good streamers for the week, some really good pitching matchups, really good lineups to start, and some really good streamers. So, and I don't want to let the cat out of the bag, but we've been pretty good with the streamers. I want to say we've been really good. And if you go back and look, the track record has been really good. I mean, I could go over names, but we're kind of running out of time. But you got to watch the show. It's going to really help you out for the week anyways. And, we'll catch you. Make sure to subscribe, like, do all that good stuff. Leave us comments. FSAN, Bourbon N Ball. We'll see you guys next week live. Thank you.